My beloved brothers and sisters, if you are the one who carries your worries silently, who turns to Allah at night because you don't know who else to turn to, who keeps going even though your heart feels tired, then this reminder is for you, not for the crowd, not for everyone, for you. There is one simple step, sincere and often overlooked, that invites the help of Allah into a struggle like this. Please stay, because what you are about to hear may be the answer you have been waiting for. My beloved brothers and sisters, one of the greatest misunderstandings that quietly breaks hearts is the idea that silence means distance from Allah. Many people believe that because they are not speaking about their pain, not crying loudly, not expressing everything openly, Allah somehow sees them as less connected. This is not true. In fact, for many believers, silence is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of restraint, dignity and deep trust. There are people who complain about every difficulty, and there are people who carry their pain with sabr. You may be the one who does not talk much about what you are going through, not because it does not hurt, but because you do not want to burden others, and because somewhere in your heart you still believe Allah knows. That belief alone is powerful. That belief is already a form of worship. Allah does not require you to explain yourself the way people do. People demand words. Allah understands hearts. He knows the weight you carry when you wake up in the morning and the thoughts that sit quietly in your chest when the world becomes silent at night. He knows the questions you ask yourself but never say out loud. He knows the tears you hold back and the strength it takes just to appear normal. Your silence does not mean Allah is unaware. It means your heart is speaking in a language only Allah fully understands. Sometimes the most sincere dua is not spoken on the tongue. It is carried in the heart day after day. Allah hears the dua that forms when you keep going despite feeling tired. He hears the dua hidden in patience. He hears the dua that lives inside endurance. And this is where the simple step begins. Before asking Allah to change your situation, you must recognize that He already knows it. Before wondering whether your struggle matters, you must believe that Allah has been watching you carry it all along. When this realization settles into the heart, something changes. The loneliness begins to soften. The heaviness no longer feels unseen. You stop feeling like you are fighting alone because you realize Allah has been present in every quiet moment you thought no one noticed. So never think that because you are silent, Allah is distant. Sometimes silence is exactly where Allah is closest. My beloved brothers and sisters, one of the most painful mistakes we make during silent struggle is believing that Allah only responds to loud prayers, dramatic changes, or visible actions. So when someone is suffering quietly, they assume their help will arrive later when they finally break down, when they finally speak up, when things become obvious. But Allah does not wait for noise. Allah responds to turning hearts. There are people whose tongues move often, yet their hearts wander far. And there are people whose tongues remain quiet, yet their hearts are constantly returning to Allah. Silent struggle does not delay Allah's help, disconnection does. And many of you listening are not disconnected. You are tired, yes, confused perhaps, but still turning back to Allah again and again. That turning back is powerful. The simple step that invites Allah's help is not volume, it is return. Each time the heart turns back to Allah instead of drowning in fear, something unseen happens. Each time you stop arguing with destiny and start placing your trust with Allah, the heart softens. And Allah loves that softness. Allah loves a heart that returns even when it is tired. Allah describes this type of connection in the Quran when He says, فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ لَا أُجِيبُ دَعْوَ لَدَّى إِذَا دَعَانِ. Indeed, I am near. I respond to the call of the caller when he calls upon me. My brothers and sisters, notice something important here. Allah does not say, I respond when the call is loud. He does not say, I respond when the words are perfect. He says, when He calls upon me, even if that call is whispered, even if it is confused, even if it is repeated with the same pain every night. Your silent return to Allah is still a call. Your exhausted Ya Allah is still a call. Your decision to turn back instead of giving up is still a call. And Allah promises response, not always in the way you expect, but always in the way your soul needs most. Sometimes Allah responds by calming the heart before changing the situation. Sometimes He responds by protecting you from what you don't see. Sometimes He responds by delaying, not to punish, but to deepen reliance. But never think that because your struggle is quiet, your call is ignored. This is why this lesson is longer than the first, because many hearts are wounded by the belief that silence equals distance. It does not. Allah is near in silence. Allah is near in confusion. Allah is near when the heart turns back without knowing what comes next. So if you are struggling in silence, do not wait for the right moment to turn to Allah. You already have. And that return, even in weakness, is exactly what invites His help. One of the deepest reasons silent struggles become unbearable is not the pain itself, but the loneliness of carrying it alone. Many people do not suffer because they lack faith. They suffer because they believe they must handle everything by themselves. They think asking Allah for help means they have failed. They think relying on Allah means they are weak. But this understanding is upside down. In reality, strength begins the moment you stop pretending you can survive without divine support. There is a quiet pride that sometimes enters the heart during hardship. Not arrogance, but self-pressure. The pressure to be strong, the pressure to manage, the pressure to not collapse. You tell yourself, others are depending on me. I cannot slow down. I cannot break. And slowly, silently, the heart grows tired. Not because Allah placed too much on you, but because you placed too much on yourself. The simple step that invites Allah's help at this stage is admitting need sincerely, privately, without shame. You do not need to announce it to people. You do not need to explain it to the world. You only need to admit it to Allah. To say, "Oh Allah, I cannot carry this the way I am carrying it. I need you." This admission is not weakness. This admission is worship. It is the essence of servitude. Allah reminds us of this reality in the Quran when He says, وَمَنْ يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى لِلَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. And whoever places his trust in Allah, then He is sufficient for him. Reflect deeply on this promise. Allah does not say He will be partially sufficient. He does not say He will help a little. He says He is enough. Enough for the fear you cannot explain. Enough for the pressure you feel every morning. Enough for the nights when your mind does not rest. Enough for the responsibilities that feel heavier than your heart. But this sufficiency is unlocked when trust becomes real, not theoretical. Tawakkul is not saying, I trust Allah, while still gripping everything tightly inside. Tawakkul is loosening that grip. It is doing what is required of you, then stepping back and allowing Allah to manage what you cannot. It is telling your heart again and again, I am not alone in this. Many people delay Allah's help not because Allah withholds it, but because they refuse to let go. They hold on to fear as if it protects them. They hold on to control as if it guarantees safety. But fear exhausts and control suffocates. Trust, on the other hand, creates space. And in that space, Allah's help enters. Sometimes Allah helps by changing circumstances. Sometimes He helps by changing how you carry them. Sometimes He helps by giving clarity, sometimes by giving calm, but He always helps the heart that finally stops struggling against reliance and begins resting within it. So if you are struggling in silence, ask yourself honestly, have I truly handed this to Allah, or am I still carrying it alone while asking Him to watch? The moment you release what you were never meant to hold by yourself, you invite Allah's sufficiency into your life. And when Allah becomes enough, even the hardest paths become walkable. This lesson matters deeply because many hearts do not need new solutions. They need permission to stop carrying everything alone. And Allah has already given that permission. My beloved brothers and sisters, there is a moment in every silent struggle when the pain is no longer only about what you are facing, but about how you understand it. Two people can go through the same hardship. One grows bitter, exhausted and distant, while the other grows softer, closer to Allah and more grounded. The difference is not the test. The difference is perception. And this is where one of the most powerful doors of Allah's help quietly opens. Many people believe that Allah's help only arrives when the situation changes, when the problem disappears, when the door finally opens. But very often, Allah begins helping you long before that by changing how you see what you are going through. The struggle remains, but the meaning shifts. And when meaning shifts, the weight does too. When someone is struggling in silence, their pain often feels personal. Why me? Why now? Why after everything I've already endured? These questions circle the heart again and again. Left unchecked, they slowly poison patience. The simple step here is not to silence these questions, but to redirect them. Instead of asking why this is happening to you, you begin asking what Allah may be doing through this. This shift is not denial. You are not pretending the pain doesn't hurt. You are acknowledging that Allah does not test without wisdom. That belief alone begins to heal something inside. When the heart stops seeing the test as punishment and starts seeing it as purpose, despair loosens its grip. Allah reminds us of this reality when He tells us that hardship is never isolated from ease, not just at the end but with it. Meaning, even while the difficulty exists, Allah places openings inside it. Strength you didn't know you had, awareness you never developed before, a closeness to Allah that comfort never produced. Many people look back years later and realize that the moment they thought would destroy them was the moment that reshaped them. It purified intentions, it stripped away false reliance. It forced them to turn inward and upward. But while they were inside the storm, they couldn't see it. And that's human. Allah does not expect you to immediately understand. He only asks you not to accuse Him of injustice while you are still learning. When Allah sees a heart that says, "Oh Allah, I don't understand this, but I trust you," He sends help in ways that don't always look dramatic. Sometimes He sends patience before solutions. Sometimes clarity before relief. Sometimes calm before change. But these are not small things. These are divine interventions that keep the heart from breaking while the situation unfolds. This lesson is longer because it addresses a deep wound. The belief that pain has no meaning. That belief drains the soul faster than the hardship itself. But when meaning enters the struggle, endurance becomes possible. You still feel tired, but you don't feel abandoned. You still feel pressure, but you don't feel punished. So if you are struggling in silence, ask yourself gently, how am I seeing this test? Am I seeing it as proof of Allah's absence, or as a place where Allah is working in ways I cannot yet see? The moment you allow your heart to believe that Allah is shaping you, not crushing you, you invite a form of help that stabilizes you from within. And sometimes, my brothers and sisters, that inner stability is exactly what allows you to survive long enough to witness the external change you have been praying for. There is a stage in every silent struggle that is more dangerous than pain itself, and that stage is resistance. Not resistance against people, not resistance against circumstances, but resistance against reality as Allah has written it for now. Many hearts suffer not because they are tested, but because they are fighting the test internally while enduring it externally. They are patient on the outside, but exhausted on the inside. They accept Allah's decree with their tongues but wrestle with it in their hearts. This inner resistance drains the soul slowly. You continue praying but without peace. You continue trying but without calm. You continue trusting Allah in words, but your heart remains tense, afraid of what might happen next. This is where the struggle becomes heavier than it was ever meant to be. The simple step that invites Allah's help at this stage is surrender, not surrender as defeat, but surrender as alignment. There is a difference between giving up and giving over. Giving up disconnects you from Allah. Giving over connects you to Him. Giving over says, "Oh Allah, I do not like this situation, but I accept that you allowed it. I will stop fighting it in my heart while I continue doing what is right with my hands." But surrender does not mean you stop making dua. It means you stop arguing with destiny while making dua. It does not mean you stop hoping for change. It means you stop letting fear control how you wait for it. It does not mean you stop feeling pain. It means pain no longer controls your decisions, your faith, or your sense of worth. Many people think surrender means weakness because they associate strength with control. But in Islam, strength is knowing where control ends. Strength is recognizing that Allah's wisdom is greater than your understanding. Strength is allowing your heart to rest in the knowledge that whatever Allah writes cannot miss you, and whatever He withholds cannot reach you prematurely. Silent struggles often intensify because the heart is tired of resisting what it cannot change yet. You replay the past, you fear the future, you question your worth, you ask whether you did something wrong. All of this is resistance disguised as thinking, and it exhausts the soul. Surrender interrupts that cycle. Surrender says, "Oh Allah, I release myself from the burden of understanding everything right now." Surrender says, "Oh Allah, I trust that you are not harming me, even if I don't yet see how you are helping me." Surrender says, "Oh Allah, I will walk this path with you instead of dragging myself through it alone." When the heart surrenders, something subtle but powerful happens. Anxiety begins to loosen, not because the problem vanished, but because the heart stopped trying to carry what it was never meant to hold. Fear loses its authority. Expectations soften. You become emotionally lighter even if your situation remains heavy. This is one of the hidden forms of Allah's help. Many people think Allah's help must be visible to be real. A door opening, a problem ending, a change happening quickly. But Allah often helps the believer by stabilizing the heart first, because a broken heart cannot handle an open door responsibly. Allah prepares the inside before changing the outside. Some of you listening are still standing not because the problem is small, but because Allah has been quietly strengthening your heart without you realizing it. The patience you didn't think you had, the calm you never learnt intentionally, the resilience that developed through nights you thought would break you. These are not accidents. These are signs of divine preparation. And surrender accelerates this preparation. When you stop resisting the test internally, Allah often shortens it externally. And even when He doesn't, He makes it lighter to carry. This is why some people suffer for years but remain grounded, while others collapse under far less. It is not the test, it is the posture of the heart. Allah never asks you to love pain. He asks you not to accuse Him through it. He never asks you to stop wanting relief. He asks you not to lose trust while waiting for it. And when the heart reaches that level of surrender, Allah's help begins to flow in ways that feel natural, not forced. Suddenly you find yourself making dua without desperation. Suddenly you feel peace without explanation. Suddenly you stop measuring your worth by outcomes and start anchoring it in your relationship with Allah. Suddenly silence no longer feels like abandonment, it feels like space for Allah to work. This is why some of the strongest believers are not loud. They are calm. They have suffered, but they are not bitter. They have waited, but they are not resentful. They have been tested, but they are not broken. They learned the difference between resisting Allah's decree and walking through it with Him. My beloved brothers and sisters, if you are struggling in silence and you feel tired beyond words, ask yourself gently, am I enduring this test, or am I also fighting it in my heart? If you are fighting it internally, no amount of patience externally will bring peace. But if you surrender sincerely, humbly, without conditions, you invite a level of Allah's help that does not depend on circumstances. And that help will carry you until the day Allah decides to change everything. Sometimes the biggest miracle is not that Allah removes the struggle, but that He transforms the one walking through it. My beloved brothers and sisters, there is a lesson that many hearts struggle to accept, yet it is one of the most transformative truths of faith. Allah often delays what you want in order to train who you are becoming. Not to punish you, not to ignore you, not to test how long you can suffer, but to prepare your heart for what is coming next. Delay is not emptiness, delay is instruction. When someone is struggling in silence, delay feels personal. You make dua, you try to improve, you correct mistakes, you wait, and still nothing changes. Days pass, months pass, sometimes years pass, and the heart begins to whisper dangerous questions. Did Allah hear me? Am I doing something wrong? Why does relief come to others so easily but not to me? These thoughts do not mean you lack faith. They mean you are human, but if left unanswered, they slowly weaken trust. The simple step at this stage is understanding delay correctly. Most people interpret delay as rejection, but in the language of Allah, delay often means development. Allah is not just concerned with what He gives you, He is concerned with who you are when you receive it, because blessings given to unprepared hearts often become burdens, not gifts. Think carefully about this. If Allah gave you everything you wanted at the exact moment you wanted it, many of us would never grow. We would remain emotionally fragile, spiritually shallow, and dangerously dependent on outcomes instead of Allah Himself. Delay forces the heart to mature. It teaches patience that cannot be learned through comfort. It builds reliance that cannot be developed through ease. When Allah delays, He is often stripping away false attachments. You begin the journey thinking relief will come through people, money, status, or outcomes. Delay slowly teaches you that none of these are stable foundations. People change, situations collapse, plans fail, and as these supports weaken, the heart is gently, sometimes painfully, redirected back to Allah. This redirection is not cruelty. It is mercy disguised as waiting. Silent struggle is where this lesson is learned most deeply, because there is no applause for patience in silence, no praise for endurance no one sees, no validation for tears wiped away before anyone notices. And yet, Allah records every moment. Every night you went to sleep worried. Every morning you got up anyway. Every time you chose not to sin even though you were tired of being strong. These moments shape the heart more than ease ever could. Allah does not rush His servants because Allah does not work with shortcuts. He works with foundations, and foundations take time. Many people think they are waiting for Allah to change their situation, when in reality Allah is waiting for their heart to reach a certain level of readiness. Readiness does not mean perfection, it means humility. It means emotional steadiness. It means the ability to receive without arrogance and lose without collapse. Delay teaches these qualities slowly, layer by layer. This is why some doors remain closed even when you knock correctly. Not because Allah is unfair, but because walking through that door too early would harm you. You would attach your worth to it. You would forget Allah once comfort arrived. You would rely on the blessing instead of the giver. Allah protects His servants from that kind of loss even when they don't understand it at the time. In silence, delay feels heavier because you don't have explanations. People around you may move forward while you remain in place. Their lives seem to progress while yours feels paused. This comparison is dangerous because Allah does not write lives in parallel lines. Each soul has its own pace, its own training, its own story. Measuring your delay against someone else's timing will only steal peace. Allah knows exactly how much waiting your heart can handle, and He knows exactly when to intervene. He does not miscalculate, He does not forget, He does not overlook tears shed in the dark. Delay is never random, it is precise, it is measured, it is intentional. And here is something many people don't realize. Sometimes Allah delays relief because the delay itself is what saves you. During the waiting period, sins are avoided that you might have fallen into. Relationships are removed that would have destroyed you later. Decisions are prevented that would have taken you far from Allah. You may never see what you were protected from, but protection unseen is still protection. When the heart understands this, waiting changes. It still hurts, but it no longer feels pointless. You stop rushing Allah. You stop setting deadlines for divine mercy. You stop telling yourself, if it doesn't happen by this time, I will lose hope. Hope tied to timelines is fragile. Hope tied to Allah is unbreakable. The simple step here is remaining consistent during delay. Not intense for a few days, then exhausted. Not emotionally strong, only when things feel hopeful, but quietly consistent. Still praying, still making dua, still avoiding what displeases Allah, still returning, even when nothing seems to move. This consistency during delay is one of the strongest invitations of Allah's help. Allah loves the servant who keeps turning back without conditions. Not, I will trust you if you fix this, but I trust you even while this remains. That level of faith transforms the heart, and a transformed heart is never left unsupported. Some of you listening are closer to relief than you think, not because circumstances are about to change, but because your heart is finally changing. You are no longer desperate the way you used to be. You are calmer, more grounded, more aware of Allah. That inner shift is often the final stage before Allah changes what surrounds you. And even if the external change takes longer, the internal stability you gain through delay becomes a gift you will carry for life. Trials may return in different forms, but you will no longer panic the same way. You will no longer collapse the same way. You will no longer feel abandoned the same way, because delay trained you. So if you are struggling in silence and waiting feels unbearable, remember this: Allah is not slow. Allah is precise. He is shaping something inside you that ease never could. And when the time is right, not according to your fear, but according to His wisdom, what arrives will arrive with blessing, stability, and meaning. Until then, remain patient, remain connected, remain trusting, because delay in the hands of Allah is never wasted time. There is one final truth that must settle deeply into the heart of anyone who has struggled in silence for a long time. Allah does not abandon the servant who keeps returning to Him, even if that return is weak, confused, or exhausted. Many people believe that Allah's closeness depends on their strength, their consistency, or their emotional stability. But Allah's mercy is not attracted by perfection, it is attracted by return. Some of you listening today are not strong anymore. You don't feel spiritually high. You don't feel emotionally stable. You don't feel hopeful the way you used to. All you feel is tired. And you wonder quietly whether Allah still wants you to keep coming back in this state. Let me tell you something clearly. This state is exactly when your return matters most. There is a type of return that happens when life is easy, and there is a deeper return that happens when the heart has nothing left except Allah. That second return is powerful. It is raw. It is sincere. It is stripped of ego and expectation, and Allah loves it. Silent struggles often lead the heart to a dangerous edge, the edge of emotional numbness. You are not angry enough to complain, not hopeful enough to dream, not desperate enough to cry. You simply exist. And in that emptiness, Shaitan whispers, what's the point of continuing? This is not a loud whisper, it is subtle. It sounds logical, it sounds calm, but it is poison. The simple step at this stage is to keep returning anyway. Not with energy, not with excitement, but with honesty. You return even when prayer feels heavy. You return even when dua feels repetitive. You return even when your heart feels distant. Because returning is not about how you feel, it is about who you trust. Many people leave Allah not because they stopped believing, but because they felt unworthy. They felt ashamed of how long they have been struggling, ashamed of repeating the same dua, ashamed of feeling weak again after being strong. But Allah does not get tired of your return. People get tired. Allah does not. Allah does not say, why are you here again? Allah says, come back. The most dangerous moment in any trial is not when pain is intense, it is when pain becomes normal. When hardship becomes familiar, the heart can slowly drift without noticing. This is why returning matters so much. Each return anchors the heart again. Each return says, I still belong with Allah, even like this. Allah's help does not always arrive as relief. Sometimes it arrives as preservation. Preservation of faith, preservation of dignity, preservation of your connection to Allah, while everything else feels unstable. And that preservation is a mercy far greater than immediate solutions. Some of you are still praying not because it feels good, but because you don't know where else to go. That itself is a sign of faith. Some of you still say, Ya Allah, not because you expect an instant answer, but because your heart refuses to let go of Him. That refusal is not weakness, it is loyalty. And Allah honors loyalty. People may walk away when you are tired. Opportunities may close when you feel most vulnerable. Answers may feel delayed, but Allah never distances Himself from a heart that keeps returning. Even when that return is slow, even when it is quiet, even when it is imperfect. There is a misconception that Allah's help only comes when faith feels strong. But in reality, some of Allah's greatest help comes when faith feels fragile, because that is when reliance is pure. There are no backup plans, no distractions, no illusions of control, just a heart saying, Oh Allah, I have nothing left except You. And that sentence, even if never spoken out loud, is one of the strongest invitations of divine help. Sometimes Allah does not remove the struggle because the struggle has become the place where you meet Him most honestly. Sometimes Allah does not rush relief because He is protecting the sincerity that hardship produced in you. Ease tests gratitude. Hardship tests sincerity, and sincerity is beloved to Allah. This does not mean your pain will last forever. Allah is gentle, Allah is merciful, Allah knows when enough is enough. But it does mean that while you are here in this silent, heavy chapter, you are not abandoned, you are not forgotten, you are not distant. You are being held in ways you cannot see. One day, when you look back, you may not remember the exact moment relief came, but you will remember how Allah carried you through the emptiness without letting you lose Him. And that will matter more than you realize right now. So if you are struggling in silence and all you can do is return again, return tired, return confused, return broken, because Allah never turns away the one who keeps coming back. And sometimes, my beloved brothers and sisters, that return itself is the miracle. As we come to the end of this reminder, remember this carefully. Allah never asked you to be unbreakable. He never asked you to understand everything. He never asked you to carry the weight of the world alone. What He asked from you was far simpler: to keep returning, even when you are tired, even when you are confused, even when your heart feels heavy in ways you cannot explain. If you are still standing today, it is not because you are strong on your own. It is because Allah has been holding you quietly all along. Every night you made it through. Every morning you got up again. Every time you chose patience over bitterness, trust over despair, prayer over giving up, none of it was small, none of it was wasted, and none of it went unseen. You may leave this reminder with the same problems, the same questions, the same uncertainty about tomorrow. But if your heart leaves with a little more calm, a little more trust, a little more willingness to place things back with Allah, then something has already changed. And often, that inner change is the beginning of every outward solution. Do not rush Allah's plan. Do not measure your worth by how quickly relief comes, and do not underestimate the power of simply staying connected. Some doors open slowly because what Allah is preparing inside you is far greater than what you are waiting for outside. So keep returning, keep trusting, keep placing your heart in Allah's care, because the one who carried you through the silence will not abandon you at the end of the journey. And know this with certainty: Allah is closer than your struggle, nearer than your fear, and more merciful than you can imagine. Oh Allah, knower of what is hidden and what is seen, we come to you with hearts that are tired yet still hopeful. Oh Allah, you know the struggles we never spoke about, the worries we carried in silence, and the tears that fell when no one was watching. Nothing about us is hidden from you. Oh Allah, for every heart that feels heavy right now, replace its weight with trust in you. For every soul that feels alone, remind it of your nearness. For every believer who kept returning to you despite exhaustion, honor that return with mercy, calm and strength. O Allah, take from our hearts the burdens we were never meant to carry. Teach us to surrender what we cannot control, to rely on you without fear, and to wait with patience that does not break our faith. O Allah, if relief is delayed, let our trust never be delayed. If answers are postponed, let our connection to you grow stronger. And if this test remains for a while, grant us hearts that remain soft, hopeful, and content with your decree. O Allah, heal what is hurting inside us. Restore what has been weakened by worry. Strengthen our iman when it feels fragile, and keep us close to you even when we feel far from ourselves. O Allah, write for us an ending better than what we fear, and a future filled with your mercy, your guidance, and your peace. Make us among those who are pleased with you and whom you are pleased with. O Allah, accept our dua. Forgive our shortcomings and never leave us to ourselves, even for a moment. Ameen.